You missed the 7. The words left Jasmine Carter's mouth before she understood why she had said them. For one impossible second, the private corridor of Park Meridian went silent. Jasmine stood beside a candlelit VIP table, a silver tray balanced against one palm, while 20 feet away a stranger stared at the keypad beside Ethan Park's private elevator. 5 numbers had already registered. The man's finger hovered above the keypad. Jasmine's heart stopped. 7. She didn't remember learning the sequence. She simply knew. The stranger slowly turned toward her. Something changed in his face. Recognition. Then fear. He ran. Stop him. Ethan Park didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. 2 security men moved instantly. The stranger slammed into a service cart, sending crystal glasses crashing across the marble, then disappeared through the kitchen corridor as Marcus Reed shouted into his radio. Seal every exit. The restaurant erupted around them. Footsteps. Breaking glass. Security doors locking. Jasmine barely heard any of it. Because Ethan wasn't watching the fleeing stranger. He was watching her. Tall and powerfully built, the Korean Mafia Boss stood beneath the warm chandelier light in a black suit, his expression controlled enough to frighten people who knew what that control meant. His eyes moved from Jasmine to the keypad, then back again. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe people should never be judged by the uniform they wear, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to Jasmine. She lowered her tray. I'm sorry, sir. For what? I shouldn't have said anything. That isn't what I asked. Ethan walked toward the elevator. Jasmine's fingers tightened. He stopped beside the keypad. The lower maintenance panel beneath, it was smooth, untouched steel. What comes next? She stared at him. What? The sequence. I don't know. Ethan's expression didn't change. You knew the 6th digit. It just came into my head. Then let the rest come. Jasmine swallowed. She wanted to say she couldn't. Instead, an image flashed behind her eyes. A cheap kitchen table. Rain against a window. Hey. Man's hands resting beside hers. Again, sweetheart. From the beginning. 4, 1, 7, 9, 2, 7. Jasmine's breath caught. 417927. Marcus had returned to the corridor. He stopped when he heard her. Ethan became perfectly still. That frightened Jasmine more than anger would have. That isn't my current elevator code, he said. Jasmine looked at the keypad. Then why do you recognize it? For the first time, something shifted behind Ethan's cold eyes. Because he had seen those numbers before. Years ago, in security diagrams that should no longer matter. In a system supposedly removed during renovations. And once, written in the margin of a notebook belonging to a man Ethan had not thought about in years. Where did you learn them? I don't know. Think. Jasmine closed her eyes. The kitchen table returned. She was 11 years old. Her father sat across from her, tapping 6 numbers against the wood with one finger. Again. 417927. Again. Dad, I already know it. Nathan Carter smiled. Knowing something once isn't the same as remembering it when you're scared. Jasmine opened her eyes. Her face had lost its color. Ethan noticed. Who taught you? My father. What was his name? Jasmine hesitated. Nathan Carter. Marcus looked sharply at Ethan. That tiny reaction told Jasmine something neither man had said. They knew the name. Ethan stepped closer. His voice dropped. Who trained your father? Jasmine shook her head. He wasn't trained. He was just my dad. Ethan studied her for a long moment. Then he looked again at the 6 numbers. No, Jasmine. His eyes returned to her. The question is, who trained you? And for the first time in 17 years, Jasmine wondered whether the childhood games she remembered had ever been games at all. For months earlier, Jasmine Carter had no idea anyone at Park Meridian was watching the way she watched a room. To her, it was normal. On her first morning, she arrived 13 minutes early in polished black shoes, a pressed white shirt, and the quiet determination of someone who needed the job too badly to make mistakes. The restaurant manager gave her a tour. Kitchen, dining room, wine cellar, employee, lockers, emergency exits. Jasmine remembered all of it after hearing it once. You've worked fine dining before? He asked. Not like this. Then how did you remember every section number? Jasmine smiled. I'm good with patterns. She didn't mention her father. Nathan Carter had turned memory into games before Jasmine was old enough to understand why. Whenever they entered a grocery store, he asked how many exits she could see. Whenever they rode the bus, he made her remember 3 license plates before they reached home. At restaurants, he always asked the same question. What's behind you? Jasmine would turn. Nathan would shake his head. If you have to turn around, you weren't paying attention. She used to hate that game. Now she always chose seats facing doors. She never questioned it. Neither did anyone else. Until Marcus Reed, Ethan Park's security chief, first noticed Jasmine during her 3rd week. A wealthy customer entered wearing an expensive gray jacket. Jasmine was carrying 2 glasses of wine when she slowed. Only slightly. Her eyes dropped toward the man's waist, then his right shoulder, then the reflection of his jacket in a mirrored column. Marcus followed her gaze. A concealed handgun created a subtle weight beneath the fabric. The man was authorized to carry it. Jasmine could not have known that. But somehow she had noticed the weapon before a newly hired security guard did. Later, Marcus reviewed the camera footage. Jasmine never stared. That interested him more. 2 weeks later, a camera above the eastern corridor malfunctioned. Most employees walked beneath it without noticing. Jasmine stopped to straighten a chair. Her eyes moved toward the camera's reflection in a framed mirror. Then she continued working. Marcus watched from the security office. Interesting, he murmured. What is? Ethan stood behind him. Marcus replayed the footage. The waitress. Ethan barely looked. What about her? She noticed a dead camera. So, she never looked at the camera. That earned a second glance. On screen, Jasmine crossed the dining room, carrying a tray. She moved like every other server. Quiet. Professional. Invisible when customers wanted her. Invisible. Then a waiter accidentally blocked the nearest service exit with a cart. Jasmine changed direction before reaching it. No hesitation. No searching. She already knew the second route. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Military family. Nothing in her file. Police. No security. Marcus shook his head. Her father worked maintenance and contract jobs. Died 17 years ago. Ethan looked at the screen again. Jasmine was laughing with another waitress now. Nothing threatening about her. Nothing calculated. Yet when she sat down during the staff break, she chose the only chair facing both doors. Ethan noticed. Marcus noticed him noticing. She may not know she's doing it, Marcus said. That possibility bothered Ethan more. That evening, Jasmine walked home carrying groceries. At a crosswalk, she automatically checked the reflection in a store window before stepping forward. A childhood voice returned. Never just look where you're going, sweetheart. Look at what's coming with you. Jasmine smiled faintly at the memory. Still paranoid, Dad, she whispered. She had no idea that across town, Marcus was reopening her employment file. No idea Ethan Park had asked for everything available on Nathan Carter. And no idea why her father's name had made the Korean Mafia Boss go completely silent. Because Jasmine believed Nathan had taught her harmless games. Ethan was beginning to suspect something else. Nobody teaches a child to remember exits, weapons, reflections, and routes for fun. Someone had prepared Jasmine Carter to survive a dangerous room. The only question was why. Marcus Reed preferred tests to questions. Questions warned people that you were suspicious. Tests showed you what they did when they believed nobody was watching. So he tested Jasmine Carter. The first change was simple. 2 security guards who normally stood near the VIP staircase switched positions. Jasmine entered carrying a tray of champagne. Her eyes swept across the room once. She slowed. Half a second, then continued walking. Marcus watched from the security office. She had noticed. The next afternoon, he left the restricted service door beside Ethan Park's private corridor open 3 inches. Jasmine approached with folded table linens. She stopped. Beyond the door stretched a hallway employees had been explicitly forbidden to enter. Most people would have looked inside. Curiosity was human. Jasmine did something else. She placed the linens on a cart, closed the door with 2 fingers, and walked away. Ethan watched the footage beside Marcus. She noticed the trap. Marcus nodded and respected the boundary. That doesn't make her dangerous. No, Marcus changed camera feeds. It makes her disciplined. The third test was the dead camera. Marcus disabled 1 unit above the wine cellar. Jasmine passed beneath it 4 times. Never looked up. On the 5th pass, she paused beside a mirrored cabinet. Her gaze touched the camera's reflection. Then she continued working. Ethan leaned closer to the monitor. She knows. She knows something changed, Marcus corrected. I'm not convinced she knows why she knows. That distinction mattered. So Marcus prepared one final test. The following evening, Jasmine entered the service station and saw an old silver pocket watch resting beside the register. Scratched case. Worn chain. 2 engraved initials. NC. Her tray hit the floor. Metal clattered against marble. Jasmine stopped breathing. Suddenly, she was 11 again. Nathan Carter sat across from her at their kitchen table. The same watch rested beside his hand. Dad, why do you always carry that thing? Because batteries die. That's not an answer. Nathan smiled. It's enough of one. Then the memory changed. The final night. Rain against the apartment windows. Nathan fastening a small silver chain around Jasmine's neck. A tiny brass key hung from it. If anything happens to me, keep this. Dad, you're being weird. Jasmine. His voice became serious. If anyone ever shows you my watch, don't trust the watch. She frowned. What does that mean? Ask who wants you to see it. The restaurant returned around her. Jasmine stared at the pocket watch. Her first instinct was to grab it. She didn't. Instead, her father's words moved through her again. Ask who wants you to see it. Slowly, Jasmine lifted her eyes. Not toward Marcus. Not toward the nearest guard. Toward the dark security camera above the service station. She looked directly into the lens. In the monitoring room, Marcus stopped moving. Ethan did too. Jasmine's fear changed. It was still there, but now it had become understanding. This was not her father's watch appearing by accident. Someone had placed it there. Someone was testing her. Jasmine bent, picked up her fallen tray, and set it carefully on the counter. Then she looked into the camera again. If you want to ask me something, she said quietly, ask me. Marcus glanced at Ethan. Ethan's expression had become unreadable. That wasn't the reaction you expected, he said. No, what did you expect? For her to take the watch. Ethan looked back at the monitor. Jasmine stood perfectly still beneath the camera. She knew it was bait. Marcus nodded. But she didn't know until she saw it. Ethan's eyes moved toward the silver watch. Nathan Carter had once taught him almost the same lesson. Never react to the object. Ask who placed it in your path. 17 years after Nathan's death, his daughter had just repeated the lesson without knowing Ethan had ever heard it. Ethan turned toward the door. Where are you going? To stop watching her through a camera. Minutes later, Jasmine heard footsteps approaching the service station. Ethan Park appeared in the doorway. His gaze moved to the watch, then to the small silver chain now visible at Jasmine's collar. For the first time, Jasmine saw recognition in his eyes. Not suspicion. Recognition. Ethan spoke quietly. That key. Jasmine instinctively covered it with her hand. How do you know about it? I don't. He stepped closer. But I knew the man who gave it to you. And suddenly the watch was no longer the most frightening thing in the room. You knew my father? Jasmine's hand remained pressed over the small brass key at her collar. Ethan stood across from her. Between them, Nathan Carter's silver pocket watch rested beneath the warm overhead light. Yes. One word. No explanation. Jasmine stared at him. How? Come with me. No, Ethan stopped. People rarely said that to him. Jasmine's voice trembled, but she held his gaze. You put my father's watch there. You had your security chief test me. Now you're telling me you knew him. She swallowed. I'm not going anywhere until you start answering questions. For several seconds, Ethan said nothing. Then something almost like respect entered his expression. Fair. He led her only as far as the empty private dining room. No guards entered. Marcus remained outside. Ethan placed an old digital recorder on the table. Jasmine looked at it. What is that? Something I haven't listened to in 17 years. He pressed play. Static. Then a man's voice filled the room. Power makes people watch the obvious door. Jasmine stopped breathing. Her father. Older than she remembered him. But unmistakable. Before the recording could continue, the answer escaped her automatically. So survive through the one nobody notices. Ethan's finger froze above the recorder. Silence. Jasmine stared at him. How did you know that recording would mean something to me? Ethan sat slowly. Because Nathan made me repeat that sentence until I hated hearing it. Jasmine's face changed. No, he taught me to read exits. No, to use reflections instead of turning my head. Stop. To watch shoulders before hands. Jasmine stepped backward. Those were her games. Her childhood. Saturday afternoons when Nathan took her downtown and asked which stranger had followed them for 2 blocks. Trips to diners where he made her identify the safest exit before ordering pancakes. Things she had believed belonged only to them. You're lying. Ethan did not react. Why would I lie about this? My father fixed buildings. He took contract jobs. He wasn't. She looked around the luxurious room. Whatever this is. Ethan's expression hardened slightly. Your father was one of the best security specialists I ever knew. Jasmine laughed once. A frightened sound. That's impossible. When I was 19, Nathan Carter taught me how to survive an ambush without firing a weapon. Ethan looked toward the recorder. He taught me that the smartest person in a dangerous room is usually the one who notices danger before anyone reaches for a gun. Jasmine's eyes filled. My father never mentioned you. I know. How? Because he never mentioned you either. That hurt more than she expected. Jasmine looked away. Ethan continued quietly. I knew Nathan for almost 4 years. I knew where he worked, what coffee he drank, the watch he refused to replace. His eyes moved toward the service station beyond the door. But I never knew he had a daughter. Jasmine looked back. My father hid me from you. From all of us. Why? That's what I want to know. Ethan pressed play again. Nathan's recorded voice returned. Never let one person carry the whole map. If they're caught, the map dies with them. The recording clicked off. Jasmine's skin prickled. What does that mean? I didn't understand then. Ethan looked at the brass key around her neck. I'm beginning to. Jasmine covered it again. You think he gave me something? I think he taught you something. I was 11. Exactly. Her eyes narrowed. Ethan leaned forward. A child can't reveal a secret she doesn't know she's carrying. He paused. But Nathan would never have put the secret itself inside your head. He gave you patterns, directions, things that meant nothing without context you didn't have and access you couldn't use alone. The words settled heavily between them. Jasmine remembered the numbers, the exits, the license plates, the patterns, the phrases she could finish without thinking. Her childhood suddenly rearranged itself into something she barely recognized. He trained both of us, she whispered. Yes. But differently. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Yes. Jasmine looked at the recorder, then at her father's watch, then at the key resting against her chest. For 17 years, she had believed Nathan Carter left behind nothing except memories. Now those memories were beginning to look like instructions. Ethan broke the silence. There's one more thing. Jasmine looked up. The night before Nathan died, he called me. Her face went still. What did he say? Ethan's answer came slowly. He said someone inside my family could no longer be trusted. Jasmine's fingers closed around the key. And did he tell you who? No. Ethan looked directly at her. He said the rest of the answer was somewhere. I would never think to look. Jasmine understood before he finished. Not a secret hidden inside a child. Directions hidden inside harmless memories. Your father didn't hide you because he was ashamed of you. Ethan said later. He hid you because he didn't trust us. Jasmine stared at him across the private dining table. Nathan's recorder sat between them. The brass key felt heavier against her chest. Marcus entered carrying a thin folder. This is everything still available from Nathan's final year. Ethan opened it. Security diagrams. Route changes. Incident reports. Pages covered in Nathan's compact handwriting. Jasmine leaned closer. She recognized the numbers before she understood them. Sequences. Patterns. Groups of 6. Her stomach tightened. I've seen things like this. Ethan looked up. Where? My father used to write numbers on index cards. She closed her eyes. He'd show me one for 10 seconds, hide it, then ask me to repeat everything. Marcus glanced at Ethan. What else? Colors. Street names. Shapes. Jasmine's voice became quieter. Sometimes he'd give me half a sentence and make me finish it the next day. Ethan slowly turned another page. Nathan had written one line across the top. Never let one person carry the whole map. Jasmine felt cold. Ethan finally understood. Nathan split the information. Marcus frowned. Between who? Ethan looked at Jasmine. Us. Silence. He spread several documents across the table. Nathan taught me operational security, routes, threat assessment, how to recognize compromised systems. Then he pointed toward Jasmine. But he gave you patterns. Why? Because patterns mean nothing without context. Jasmine shook her head. I was a child. That was the point. Ethan's voice softened. If someone questioned you, you couldn't reveal what you didn't understand. Jasmine looked down at the papers. Nathan had never given her names, never shown her evidence, never told her who to fear. He had only placed directions inside games that could not lead anywhere without Ethan's knowledge, the old building systems, and the key around her neck. She was not the secret. She carried one harmless piece of the path toward it. Still, Anger rose in her. That's horrible. Ethan said nothing. He used me. He made a choice for you. I was 11. I know. No, you don't. Her voice cracked. He made me think we were playing. Ethan let the anger reach him without defending Nathan. Jasmine looked toward the window. Then another memory surfaced. Her father laughing while holding an index card above her head. Numbers open more than doors, Jazz. She had rolled her eyes. What does that even mean? One day, maybe nothing. And if it means something? Nathan's smile had faded. Then I'm sorry. Jasmine stopped breathing. She had forgotten that part. Numbers open more than doors, she whispered. Ethan turned. What? My father used to say that. Marcus pulled an old photograph from the folder. Then you should see this. He placed it on the table. Nathan Carter stood beside a much younger Ethan in the service corridor of Park Meridian before its renovation. Behind them was the private elevator. Nathan wasn't looking at the camera. He was pointing toward an old maintenance panel. Someone had written 6 digits beside it. Jasmine touched the photograph. Her pulse quickened. Ethan stared at Nathan's hand. I always thought he was documenting the old override. Jasmine looked closer. No, what? He's not pointing at the numbers. Her finger moved beneath Nathan's hand. He's pointing at the service designations beside them. Marcus leaned forward. Jasmine's childhood games returned. Numbers. Positions. Routes. Not passwords. Patterns. Ethan looked at her. What do you see? Jasmine studied the photograph again. Then she understood. 417927 isn't just a code. Ethan's eyes narrowed. It's directions. Marcus went still. Directions to what? Jasmine slowly closed her hand around the brass key. I think my father wanted us to find out together. Don't enter the code yet. Jasmine's hand stopped inches from the private elevator keypad. Ethan looked at her. You just spent 10 minutes telling me it's a route. I said I think it's a route. That distinction matters now. It matters if my father expected us to understand something before we touched anything. Marcus almost smiled. Ethan did not. The three of them stood inside Park Meridian's restricted service corridor long after the restaurant had closed. Jasmine studied the old photograph again. Nathan, a younger Ethan. But beside the numbers were faded technical designations from the original building. Show me the old system. Marcus opened the maintenance panel. Most of the wiring was modern. One section wasn't. 6 faded service contacts remained beneath newer circuitry. Ethan stared at them. That hardware predates the renovation. Marcus checked the archived engineering plans. The original elevator used a hardwired maintenance override. It was supposed to be disconnected when the control system was replaced. Supposed to be? Jasmine asked. Marcus looked at Ethan. Apparently Nathan didn't trust the word supposed. Jasmine entered the sequence. Nothing happened. Then the modern display went dark. A second interface appeared beneath it. Old. Green lettering. Maintenance access. Marcus stepped closer. That shouldn't exist. Ethan looked at Jasmine. Your father left it alive. No. Jasmine stared at the screen. He left it waiting. 6 old service designations appeared. Zone 4. Shaft 1. Junction 7. Conduit Bank 9. Branch 2. Access 7. Marcus pulled up the original maintenance schematic. His expression changed. The numbers aren't instructions like steps on a map. Jasmine understood. They're labels. Nathan had made a technical route memorable enough for a child to retain without knowing what it described. Marcus traced the designations. The route ended beneath the documented basement, inside a section sealed during later renovations. Park Meridian had been rebuilt around an older structure. Walls had moved. Mechanical spaces had been abandoned. The elevator descended. B1, B2, B3, then stopped at an old service landing authorized only by the maintenance interface. The doors opened. No secret marble bunker. No hidden luxury. Just concrete. Old pipes. Dust. Emergency lights flickering awake. Jasmine stepped forward. Ethan caught her arm. Behind me. She looked at his hand. Then at him. My father gave me the route. And he trained me to enter unknown rooms first. A beat. Jasmine nodded. Fair. Ethan released her. They followed the old designations through the abandoned mechanical level. Zone 4. Shaft 1. Junction 7. Conduit Bank 9. Branch 2. Access Door 7. At the end stood a steel door almost hidden behind old conduit. Scratched beside the frame were 2 initials. NC. Jasmine's breath caught. Nathan had been here. No keypad. No electronic lock. Only a small brass keyhole. Jasmine touched the chain at her neck. The key her father had given her the night before he died. Ethan watched her remove it. 2 halves, he said quietly. Jasmine looked at him. You knew how to reach the old system. And you carried the route and the key. Context. Memory. Access. No single person could reach the answer alone. Jasmine inserted the key. It fit. Her hand trembled. She turned it. A heavy mechanism moved inside. The door opened 3 inches. Cold air slipped through. Marcus raised his flashlight. Then Jasmine noticed something written beneath the handle. Her father's handwriting. Only if you came together. Ethan stared at the message. Jasmine felt tears sting her eyes. Nathan had not stored a dangerous secret in his daughter's mind. He had stored only a path that required another person to understand. Ethan slowly opened the door. Beyond it waited darkness. He knew we would both be standing here. Jasmine's voice disappeared into the room. Marcus raised his flashlight. The beam crossed a space no larger than a storage office. No money. No weapons. No glamorous vault. Just shelves. Old security diagrams. Photographs. Cassette tapes. Boxes labeled with dates from 17 years ago. Jasmine stepped inside. Her father was everywhere. His handwriting. His careful labels. The same block letters he had used on grocery lists and birthday cards. Ethan picked up a security diagram. This is the old park network. Marcus moved beside him. Vehicle routes. Residence access. Emergency protocols. Several lines had been marked in red. Ethan's expression hardened. Compromised routes. Jasmine approached another shelf. Photographs had been arranged by date. Park security officers. Drivers. Advisors. Technical staff. 1 organizational sheet. Listed senior personnel from Nathan's final year. Victor Hahn. Advisor. Thomas Keller. Deputy Security Director. Jasmine barely noticed Keller's name. Ethan stopped at Victor. My father's advisor. Later mine. You trust him? Ethan looked at the photograph too long. I did. Marcus opened another folder. His face changed. Ethan. Inside were payment records. Victor Hahn's authorization code appeared beside several transfers. Dates matched security breaches Nathan had documented. Ethan's jaw tightened. Jasmine felt the room shift. They had come looking for a mystery. Suddenly, they had a suspect. But Nathan had taught her something about easy answers. The obvious door. She kept looking. At the center desk sat a locked metal drawer. Ethan tried it. Nothing. Marcus examined the mechanism. No electronic release. Jasmine touched the brass key. Move. She inserted it. Click. The drawer opened. Inside was 1 cassette. A handwritten label covered its case. For EP. Only if JC remembers. Jasmine stared. Ethan Park. Ethan looked at her. Jasmine Carter. Nathan had expected both. Marcus found an old cassette player beneath the desk and connected it to a power pack. Jasmine inserted the tape. Static filled the room. Then Nathan Carter spoke. If you're hearing this, Ethan, then Jasmine remembered enough to bring you here. Jasmine covered her mouth. 17 years. And suddenly her father was in the room again. I'm sorry, Jazz. Her eyes filled instantly. I hope none of this would ever mean anything to you. Ethan lowered his gaze. Nathan continued. The park security network has been compromised from inside. Routes were sold. Credentials were copied. People we trusted became doors for people we didn't. Marcus looked toward Victor's records. Then Nathan's voice sharpened. You're going to find a name. Ethan became still. You're going to want that name to be the answer. Jasmine looked at him. Don't make that mistake. Ethan's eyes moved toward Victor's photograph. If I leave you a name, you'll trust my conclusion. And conclusions can be manipulated. A pause. So I'm leaving evidence. Jasmine felt something cold move through her. Dates. Routes. Access. Records. Payments. Compare them. Break them apart. Ask what doesn't fit. The tape crackled. The lie is rarely the thing that looks wrong. Without thinking, Jasmine whispered the ending. It's the thing that looks too perfect. Ethan heard her. Nathan's recording continued. One more thing. The man whose name you find in this room may be guilty of something. A burst of static. But he is not the whole answer. The tape clicked off. Silence swallowed the room. Ethan stared at Victor Hahn's name. Everything pointed toward him. Almost too perfectly. Jasmine wiped her eyes and reached for the first page. Dad told us what to do. Marcus looked at her. What? She placed Victor's payment record beside the security timeline. Stop looking for proof that he did it. Her eyes steadied. Start looking for the one thing that proves he couldn't have. Victor couldn't have authenticated this transfer from Manhattan. Jasmine's voice cut through the underground room. Ethan looked up sharply. Marcus moved closer. Jasmine placed 3 documents side by side. A transfer record carrying Victor Hahn's authorization code, an international travel itinerary, and a technical sheet describing the old park authentication system. October 17th, Jasmine said. The transfer was authenticated here at 9:42 p.m. Marcus checked the itinerary. Victor was in Seoul. Ethan frowned. He could have given someone the code. Exactly. Jasmine tapped the technical sheet. So the code isn't the contradiction. Marcus understood. The physical token. The old system required 2 things. Victor's authorization code and a hardware token stored inside the Manhattan security office. Marcus checked the archive. The token assigned to Victor was checked out locally that night. Ethan's expression darkened. While Victor was in Seoul. Another payment. Victor was in Toronto. His physical token was used in Manhattan. A third breach. Los Angeles. Same pattern. Victor's identity had been attached to events he could not have physically authenticated alone. He was being framed, Marcus said. Or someone was using him as cover. Jasmine replied. Ethan reached for the personnel sheet. Who controlled the tokens? Marcus traced the authorization chain. Security Administration. His finger stopped. Thomas Keller. Deputy Security Director. The name they had barely noticed earlier. Jasmine studied the records. Keller's name never appeared beside suspicious transfers. But his authorization appeared whenever tokens were replaced, serviced, or reassigned. He didn't need Victor's identity, Jasmine whispered. He controlled the devices that made the system believe Victor was Victor. Marcus continued searching. Then his phone vibrated. A message from Park Meridian Security. The stranger from the elevator had been identified. Caleb Ross, former building security contractor. Marcus opened the employment history. His face changed. He worked under Keller. Jasmine felt cold. The opening scene returned. The stranger hesitating. Her own voice supplying the final digit. 7. He was testing the old route, she said. Possibly, Ethan replied. Marcus nodded. He knew 5 digits. We don't yet know whether he expected Jasmine to supply the 6th. Jasmine looked down. I still gave it to him. Ethan's answer came immediately. Whether he expected you to speak or not, he created the situation. You didn't choose to be tested. Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, then looked at Ethan. Victor Hahn disappeared yesterday. Ethan's jaw tightened. Running? Maybe not. Marcus opened an encrypted message Victor had sent hours earlier, but which security had flagged as suspicious. One sentence appeared. If Nathan's route activates, Keller will know. Do not trust my credentials. Nobody spoke. For 17 years, Victor had appeared to be the betrayal Nathan left behind. Now it looked as though he had discovered the same trap. Ethan stared at the message. We find Victor. Marcus nodded. And Keller. We find proof before we find a conclusion. Jasmine looked at Ethan. Nathan would have approved. She gathered the records into separate piles. Then something caught her eye. One access sheet was clean. No yellowing. Fresh ink. Someone added this recently. Marcus raised his flashlight. Jasmine looked toward the steel door. Dust had been disturbed near the rear hinge. Marcus crouched. Tool marks. Ethan joined him. The lock Jasmine had opened with Nathan's key was intact, but the hinge plate showed faint mechanical damage. Someone bypassed the door from the hinge side, Marcus said, then reset it. Jasmine felt a chill. Her key had not been duplicated. Someone had forced another way in. A partial shoe print remained in the disturbed dust, fresh enough to hold its edges. Her father's hidden room had not been forgotten. Someone had reached it before them, and whoever had come here had left the perfect trail toward Victor untouched. Jasmine stared at the evidence. Then she understood. They wanted you to find this room. Ethan looked at her. Why? Her eyes moved toward Nathan's cassette. To see whether I could tell you what they got wrong. I'm not becoming one of your people. Jasmine stood inside Ethan's security office the following morning. Sunlight cut through the tall windows, turning the city beyond them pale gold. Nobody in the room had slept. Victor Hahn had finally made contact through an attorney. He was alive, hiding, and willing to provide records concerning Keller's old security network. Caleb Ross had been detained after trying to leave Park Meridian through a sealed service corridor. Ethan's legitimate security investigators and attorneys were now tracing the old records. The mystery was no longer buried. It was active. Ethan placed an envelope on the desk. Enough money to leave New York. Jasmine didn't touch it. A new apartment. No private security. No, Ethan leaned back. You're difficult. My father trained me. For the first time that morning, Marcus smiled. Ethan almost did. Then Jasmine's expression became serious. I'll help you understand what my father left behind. Ethan waited. But I'm not carrying a gun. I'm not joining your organization. And I'm not spending the rest of my life pretending I'm someone else because Keller's network might still be watching. Marcus nodded slightly. Ethan studied her. Months earlier, Jasmine had been a waitress he barely noticed. Now she was setting terms in his office. Temporary civilian consultant, Ethan said. Working with Marcus. Only on Nathan's material. Agreed. And I keep my job until I decide otherwise. That surprised him. You want to keep waiting tables? Jasmine looked at him. I liked my life before your elevator started asking questions. A quiet breath of amusement escaped Marcus. Ethan slid the envelope away. Fine. Later that afternoon, Jasmine returned to the private elevator. The corridor looked exactly as it had the night everything changed. Steel doors. Cold lighting. The keypad waiting beside them. 6 numbers that had lived inside her mind for 17 years without meaning. Ethan stood beside her. Marcus remained several steps behind. Jasmine remembered Nathan at the kitchen table. Again, Jazz. From the beginning. She used to think he was teaching her how to remember. Now she understood. He had been teaching her how to notice. Ethan reached toward the control panel. Wait. Jasmine caught his wrist. He looked at her. What? She didn't answer. Something around the lower maintenance screw bothered her. The panel had been smooth the first night. Now a thin silver scratch cut through the dark finish. Fresh. Jasmine leaned closer. Marcus stepped forward. What do you see? The screw has been removed. Marcus inspected it. I checked this panel last night. Using a cloth, he carefully loosened the already disturbed cover. Behind it sat a tiny electronic transmitter connected to the old maintenance line. Marcus went still. That wasn't there. Ethan's expression hardened. Keller. Maybe, Jasmine said. Ethan looked at her. She shook her head. My father spent 17 years teaching us not to turn suspicion into proof. That stopped him. Marcus nodded. We trace it first. Jasmine stepped back. Months earlier, she would have assumed the most powerful man in the room already knew everything. Now she understood something Nathan had known long before any of them. Power created blind spots. People looked at Ethan. They watched Marcus. They feared men carrying weapons. Nobody watched the waitress. That was why she saw the scratch. Ethan looked at her differently now. Not as an employee who had accidentally stumbled into his secrets. Not merely as Nathan Carter's daughter. As, Jasmine, you ready? He asked. She looked toward the elevator. For what? To finish what your father started. Jasmine considered the words. Then shook her head. No, Ethan frowned. She pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. We're not finishing his life. Jasmine stepped inside. We're deciding what comes after the truth. Ethan followed. Before the doors closed, Jasmine looked once more at the transmitter Marcus was carefully removing for analysis. Someone was still watching. The investigation would take time. There would be records to trace and people to question. But this time, Jasmine understood the difference between knowing something and proving it. Ethan looked at her. Which floor? Jasmine glanced at the panel, then smiled faintly. Start with the one everyone else ignored. The doors closed.